first kiss and the last kiss they have ever received from my father. Welcome to the Eckert podcast, episode number 1. Guys, today is the first episode and I'm gonna take you on a journey. I'm gonna show you that life gives us warnings, that there are things that we really need to embrace, understand, and really dive deep into our own story. In today's episode, I'm gonna share crazy stories, so really watch till the end. And now, what is this show all about? Eckert's show is all about discovering the superhero within. I am a Polish immigrant with a big heart and strong accent, as you can hear me. Kick-ass husband and 2 beautiful kids. I am American entrepreneur, sharing an incredible mission to help women discover their own discipline, energy, confidence, and action by having the no excuses mindset and operate to dominate in their life. I believe that the best superhero is within all of you out there. You just need to dive deep in and discover it. This show will help you finally discover the self-discipline and self-confidence and strong self-beliefs so you can stop making excuses and create the life that you truly desire and deserve by choosing the path of growth and the best version of you. So let's dive in, guys. Today I will take you on a journey, as I mentioned, right? Really how it all began, because as you can see me, I am sitting down in my thinking corner, sipping on my glass of water. My son Tyson, who is 11 years old, helping me record this show today, and he is the behind the scenes camera operator right there. So how has everything started? Like, as I mentioned, I am a Polish immigrant, right? I've been here in the United States for the past 27 years. So we need to start really from the beginning. And that's the story that I wanted to tell you. So I was born in Poland in 1976, right? And I grew up without a father. Me and my mom, we were living with my grandparents, a very small family. I would have my cousin and my aunt and my great grandma at this time, and that was our family. You know, my grandparents gave me everything. I would say what. Like every grandparent, they always want to spoil their grandkids, and I think that's how I felt. I was raised in a beautiful family, even though it was small. My mom was trying her best to raise me, and I remember she had an amazing job and working for a newspaper and all the privileges related to a newspaper. I remember going on those amazing trips, summer vacations. It was really nice. But obviously, I grew up in a communist country, so the first years of what I remember, the early stages was, empty stores, nothing on the shelves. I remember we would get these little cards. It was like a tiny little square that you would go to the store if you wanted to buy 1 kilogram of flour or sugar. They would literally have to cut that little square that would have a writing on it, a sugar or a pair of boots, and they would take the square out of this big block and they would give you in exchange a product. The shelves were completely empty. So that's what I remember, my grandparents making a batter at home, us just rolling everything and mixing. I just remember this like this was today. I remember them teaching us how to make a sauerkraut, which my husband Steve always make a fun of, like we're gonna be stepping with our own feet and making the sauerkraut, but that's what it was. We would have a barrel, the grandparents would shred the cabbage, and they would wash our feet, and me and my cousin would be stepping over the cabbage and using our feet to kind of squish the juice. You would put a little bit of salt and put another layer, and that's how we would make the cabbage. And then at the end, you put that plate and a big rock to kind of make the juice, and it would ferment it. So I remember those, us making the pickles. And today, me and my daughter, we live here in California, and we started our garden. And let me tell you, it's not what I remember from my early ages. It's not like my grandparents had it all figured out together, and I remember them having that awesome garden. Here with us, we have gophers here, and gopher ate our entire garden. So we planted all garden, and everything has been destroyed, and the little creature just ate it all. And we've been laughing just recently how we need to figure this out, how we need to find another way to make our garden, because my cousin just been here for the whole entire month of February, and he made this amazing spot for us, created the fence for us for our garden. So really awesome that he did that for us, and we took our chances to start planning this whole thing, but obviously it didn't work. So you see, in life things happen, but you don't give up and you keep on trying. So what I've realized is that me as a kid going into the garden, I never used to go there. I mean, I go, but I wasn't really involved in much of planting, maybe more like picking stuff from the garden. I never used to like the bugs and other things, so it's like that memory comes in and out, and I'm thinking, wow, we had a great time with my cousin there and playing, and somehow in the back of my head I got the knowledge. So being fully embraced in something that you do, it's really challenging, but also gives you that knowledge for life. So today, I when I call my grandparents and when I call my grandma and my grandpa, I always ask them like, okay, how to do this, how to do that. And my grandparents are 92 and 95 years old. And let me tell you, today is May 6th, 2023. You might be watching this episode tomorrow, a month later, 2 months, who knows, maybe a year later. And today was a difficult day for me. And this is the day of launching my episode. And I'm gonna be totally vulnerable and real with you. Real is messy. Real is not fake. Real is what makes us us. Today, I got the news from my family that my grandfather had an accident. When my mom called and said that he had an accident, traffic accident, I didn't know what to expect. And here we go, what happens to us. We don't know the details, because she didn't know the details. I started crying. I was crying, I was really thinking the worst case scenario. So think for a second, when in life you started panicking and you don't really know the details, right? So we always have to find the details first before we even go into that zone. So I realized, you know what, today is the day. I can't cry. I have to launch this episode. I really need to make this episode being fully embracing my grandpa and like almost contributing this episode to him. So as I was waiting for the news, I was still working on an episode, making sure that I'm gonna give you guys the best content, and I'm thinking, wow, in a day of launching this episode, something like this happened. So what it showed me is also that how you need to embrace all the challenges in life and do what you set yourself to do. Because today I said there is absolutely no excuses for me not to make this episode, because I was thinking, I'm gonna be working towards that, I'm gonna launch it 2 weeks ago, and I didn't. And I'm like, we all make excuses in life. No matter what happens, I need to do, and I need to launch this episode. So as I was working this morning, this episode, I think, helped me not to cry. So we've done our workout today, and we've been waiting for these phone calls and finding out is everything okay, is my grandfather is at the hospital, if he's gonna survive. So as of right now, I know that the garbage truck hit him, and that's what we know. He's 95 years old. He's in the hospital, in the intensive care. He's okay, but he's all bruised up, and we don't know anything else. And look, I am sitting here with you. I could have make any excuse right today. This could have been perfect excuse for me not to show up for you, not to do this episode, but I'm here with you, recording this episode and still sharing the story, because my grandparents, I'm gonna have a sip of water. My grandparents, guys, as I mentioned, gave me so much. They were, I think they were trying to fit in that gap, that missing part of my father. Because my father showed up, I would say twice or 3 times in my life. I remember first when I was 7 years old, and I remember this like today. He pulled in with his Audi car. We say in Polish, we say Audi, okay? We say Audi. I remember that fancy car, and I remember all these cool things that he brought to my apartment. At this time I was living with my grandparents. That was their first apartment, and he showed up and he showed me all these cool gifts. I remember these awesome things for my school, and I was so amazed. And you know what in my head was? I thought that him and my mom were gonna get back together. I saw them talking outside on the street, and I was thinking, I was hoping that, wow, maybe they're gonna get together. He promised me that he's gonna come and show up for my first communion. And guess what? He didn't. He didn't show up for my first communion. He didn't send any package, any letter. He was gone. Later, I found out that he didn't even plan to do so. So he was having another family, and his previous, at that time, current wife, she was trying to push him hard to contact me, and I guess that's why he showed up when I was 7 years old. The next time he showed up, let me tell you, when I was about 13 years old, I remember like today, guys, I was sitting at the desk in my mom's apartment, because later on we moved out when I was, I think, about 12 years old. I remember switching school, and he showed up with a lady at this apartment, and I thought that this lady was his new wife. Let me tell you, this wasn't his wife. This was my, well, I can say stepsister, half-sister, because we are from the same father, but different moms, right? So he showed up with her, and in my head, and I was sitting at the desk, and he sat across the room from me, looking at me and asking me questions. I remember my whole body was shaking. I was supposed to be doing math that time. I remember I had a math book in front of me. I was supposed to concentrate and do the lessons, and I couldn't. I remember I was moving my leg up and down. I was shaking. I was like literally so uncomfortable. I couldn't even say a word. My voice was shot. And all this time, as he was sitting there, I'm thinking, wow, his wife is young. And later on, I found out from my grandma that this wasn't his wife. This was my sister. So the next day when we went out, he actually pulled into my apartment, and he decided that he's gonna take me something. Now listen to this. A father showing up second time in his kid's life. He's taking them to some outdoor food shopping to buy groceries. That was his idea of spending time with me. He didn't know me. He didn't know anything about me, and he took me some grocery shopping. He didn't buy me anything. He bought some vegetables. He put me back in the car and dropped me back off home. And I remember I couldn't even get into a conversation with him or my half-sister. I remember this like today. We were just in an awkward position. Obviously, find out later that they were some kind of contact together. So she had a better relationship with him than I had. I had zero. And as the years were going by, I remember my mom was trying to do her best to raise me, but we got into a crazy idea one time. Listen to this. This was absolutely crazy. She decided that she will send me off to Germany because that's what he was living. He left my mom and she was pregnant, and he moved to Germany. And even though they were married, he moved to Germany, and that's where he was living. All his life he was there. I remember my mom, okay, we're gonna send you to school. You're gonna go to school there. She puts me on the bus. I go there. I think I was like 17 years old. I arrive at the apartment that he was at. I miss important part. Before I even went there, I spent 2 weeks with him at one winter, I remember. And I met his new family and his stepdaughter. He had at this time my sister, my second sister Natalie. She was just a year old, and she's born German. She's a German, and she speaks that broken Polish, which is so cute. This is how we communicate. I remember being with him for 2 weeks. During the 2 weeks of him being with him, I probably spent single 1 hour with him. He was never at home. He was always absent for this family. He was always absent for his half daughter, like the stepdaughter that he had. He was always absent for his little kid, Natalie. And one time when he came home late from work, it was so awkward, guys. He lay down behind me and he gave me a kiss goodbye. It was the first kiss and the last kiss that I've ever received from my father. I'm 46 today. I really met the man one more time in my life. So imagine what an impact this was on me, right? And that I was raised without a father. Always have that missing part. However, how you can flip the switch in your life, how you can flip the switch in your story, is like appreciate who you have around you. Like I have my grandparents, and my grandpa was the one that really gave me everything, and I'm gonna go back to it in a second. So let's go back for a second. Like, my mom sends me on that bus when I was like 17 years old. I arrived at this apartment that was there for 2 weeks. Nobody's there, guys. No one. The apartment was empty. And me speaking the broken German, I knock at the door of the neighbors, and I'm like, excuse me, do you know of this guy that used to live here? And these people actually helped me. They told me that he's no longer with his family. He's no longer there. He's no longer living there. And that they split and she lives somewhere else. So imagine a stranger. I'm on a bus by myself going to another country. Ended up at an apartment that my father no longer lives. The stranger helps me, drives me to another apartment where his current wife, my father's current wife lives, and she really takes me in. A strange woman that has nothing to do with me, she takes me in for 2 weeks and I live with her. Is that a crazy story of what? Because my father was no longer with this new family. He took off. So I'm with this strange family, living there for 2 weeks because my ticket back is in 2 weeks. The shit that we've done. I mean, literally, like when I think about my life is a crazy story, but here's the thing. You have a crazy story to say too, and to told to the world, and based on this crazy story, you can get some essence and make a sense of it. How you can have a better life. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? How you can thrive on the strengths and become better. Because let me tell you, this 2 weeks was crazy for me. But do you know what I did through these 2 weeks? I was about 17. I think I was 17 or even 16 years old. I don't remember exactly. But her name was Yola, and her daughter was going to school. My little sister Natalie was at home, and they had a help, I remember, at home, who was cooking for them, cleaning for them, and I would hang out with her. And I remember I was bored at home because I had nothing to do, and I had to spend 2 weeks being there, and I'm like, how am I gonna survive? So I started convincing this lady that was there that I need to just go to the store. I'm gonna walk around the stores, and I'm gonna help my little sister, and I'm gonna take her for a walk. You know what I was doing during this store? I was shoplifting. I was stealing stuff from this store. Little things like a bracelet or something. Like, imagine what comes to a kid head. And I'm thinking, if they would ever caught me, I don't know what I would ended up. So there were turbulent times. It started early when I told you. It started early, and it continued for a long period of time. But I would be wrong if I would say that this is because of my father. I would be wrong if I would put the blame on him that this would happen. Because you know what? I had my grandparents, I had my grandfather, I had my family with me, and they were trying to give me everything. You know, this was a family of love and care, but it wasn't an entrepreneurial family. It was a family of beliefs that, you know, get a good job, work hard, get married, and that's your life. And for some reason, deep inside of me was that need or want for something else. As a little kid, I always was comparing myself to others. I always wanted something more. And I remember I had a friend who invited me for her birthday. And as I remember as today, walking into her apartment, I saw all these toys. Because she had a grandma who was working in Germany, she would send her all these toys. And I remember as a kid, like, wanting a toy, because honestly, I had one doll, and then my grandparents bought me a dog when I was 7 years old. So that was it. That was my whole life. I didn't have any toys. I had literally one. It wasn't even a Barbie. It was Fleur. I remember like today that this doll was like that, had bendable legs and arms. That was the doll that I had. And you know, as I'm thinking, I had a great childhood. We were going out and playing in the field with my cousin. We were going to incredible vacation, simple vacations, like to Shelpia. I remember what an awesome town, small town, little cottages made out of wood. And that was our vacation. My grandfather taught me how to swim, how to play soccer. We would go mushroom picking, blueberry picking. That was my childhood. This is what I learned. And today, as a mom, as a wife, my goal is to take what I've learned from my childhood and deliver to my kids. It's so important for us to spend the family time together, to be together. And that's why we took our kids off from school. Today, it's been a few months. We took them out November. So we had November, December, January, February, March, April. 6 months the kids have been doing home life. So it's been an incredible journey, guys. And I want to keep you guessing and waiting for more, because this is it for the episode number 1, guys. Stay tuned for episode number 2. Remember, the superhero is within you. You just need to dive in and discover the deep inner force that will challenge you and that will help you to grow to the next version of you. Stay tuned for episode 2. No excuses.